who have threatened to impose sanctions on Turkey if Turkey moves forward with an anti-terrorist operation in Syria. It is understood if the Democrats express their disapproval of President Donald Trump's decision on Syria, but it seems like the Republicans have also gone against their own president. So what does this tell us about the political spectrum of the United States at the moment?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Jafar. Among the Republicans, there are two parts. One part is supporting Donald Trump because they believe he knows how to handle conflict, he knows how to handle adversaries, so therefore they are with him no matter what he does. The other side has other concerns, and mostly that has to do with the security of Israel. So let me just a little bit briefly summarize the positions of both. Donald Trump has been probably the most pro-Israeli president that you can have in U.S. history. So he has proven that through what he did. He recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He recognized the occupation of the Golan Heights as an Israeli right to occupy. And most likely, it is possible he will recognize the Israeli right to annex the West Bank as well. So for Israel, the U.S. president has been almost unequivocal in his support. That said, he is not willing to embrace the entire, let's say, the entire ambition of Israel within the Middle East. Israel feels more secure if all of the countries surrounding it is broken down into pieces. And it sees a historical opportunity within the Syrian conflict, and that is to create an autonomous zone in the northeast of Syria. And this has been confirmed, and we knew that from the beginning. But this has been confirmed even recently. It was yesterday that one other whistleblower from the White House who listened to the conversation between President Trump and the president of Turkey, he then spoke with Newsweek on anonymous basis. At least Newsweek didn't announce who he was. He said we could have had, or we would have another Israel in the Middle East if we supported that independence movement, and speaking about Kurdish independence. And so the people who want that project to continue, they feel frustrated that the withdrawal of the U.S., with the withdrawal of the U.S., all of these non-state entities that exist now in northeast Syria would collapse. So there would be no prospect for the establishment of such an autonomous zone. On the other hand, if you look at it from those non-state actors, what they have done is they have not coordinated their ambitions with the neighboring people, and that I include Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran. For example, they have been seen in Syria from let's say, the people who are not sympathized with the YPD. They have seen as very aggressive in changing the way people have viewed Syria historically. For example, they are referring to North Mesopotamia as Rojava, which means the West. And the West of what? That means the West of Kurdistan. And in Syria, this area has been known as Al Jazeera in Arabic and Gozarto in Assyrian, or Syriac Assyrian. So historically speaking, people didn't like the idea of having their land being transformed in this way, even symbolically. For example, Ain al-Arab now is called Kobani. Again, so people have reacted against this unlimited strive towards changing the cultural, the ethnic face of the Northeast. So those non-state authorities, I think they have made a strategic mistake of not coordinating with the people that are surrounding them and dependent on the United States, who has over and over stated that they are looking at those non-state authorities, the YPD, the PKK. They are looking at them as tools. And he had said that frankly Donald Trump said that frankly in his tweet, that he expects them to be happy with the fact that they have supported them, they've given them money, and they've given him weapons, and now it's over. ISIS is gone, so we want to leave.
President, let me take the
issue,
Turkish perspective on this. Ms. Erboy, I'm sure you have followed all the latest developments and statements coming from the United States. Please tell me, is Turkey concerned about the statements made by the bipartisan senators and the President of the United States himself?
Yes, from the perspective of Ankara, actually, Ankara got used to with the both style of U.S. politics. I mean, see, let's start with the Obama administration style. So, as we know, I used to serve in Washington as a journalist. So, Obama was one of the least at the press briefing held president. I mean, in his term, there was no public press meeting at all. At least it was number like 5 or 10. So now we are facing with the style of president. I mean, the echo and tradition of the president, actually, who tweets every single minute about very serious state level issues. Such as today, I mean, such as yesterday. So this flip-floppy things and also inconsistent and ambivalent and contradictory style of business is very actually got used by Turkey in Ankara, especially in Trump term. But again, at the state level, the relations between Turkey and Ankara and political communication channel was not actually worst, I mean, not best or better than Obama term now. I mean, Obama term, we have seen a lot of promises, a lot of commitments in the last 6 years, actually. Why actually the Turkish-U.S. relations deteriorated? Because of the Obama's policies in his second term. So since then, there was a major threat against Turkey and against its national security. And in Obama term again in 2013, let's remember, Obama drove a red line about the chemical weapons in Syria and then came up with the no boots on the ground policy, which created this statu quo now in northern Syria, which created a possibility of PKK, PYD, YPG, SDF-led terror terror corridor, which was used as a proxy by the U.S. government back then. So what has changed after all? Trump came up with the idea of a full withdrawal from Syria. So that was welcomed by Turkey at the beginning, then evolved into kind of stalling process. So Turkey's baggage was already full, so in the maximum amount. So for now, actually, Trump reiterated his message to withdraw, as we have seen from Wall Street Journal pieces last Friday, actually. The U.S. officials already revealed that U.S. doesn't have any option but withdrawing from Syria. So this is not feasible, and this is not analytical anymore for U.S. government. So Trump find out the fact that Syria, being in Syria, it's not feasible anymore. So at the first hand, he used to be a businessman. So this is his another characteristic. So he's sharp, he's firm, but also revealing political character. So that creates time to time a political communication crisis between Ankara and Washington. But the personal level of relation is better than Obama term, apparently. So what Ankara expects from now on is to commit this withdrawal timetable, and also because excuse me, Ankara have seen worse scenarios in Obama term.
All right. Now, before we move forward, I would like to show this report on the contradictory statements made by the U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham. Let's have a look at it, then we will discuss it further with our guests.
United States President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw American troops from northern Syria provoked a rebuke on Monday from foreign policy hawks in his own Republican Party. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a frequent defender of Trump, harshly criticised the president for his pull-out decision.
If I didn't see Donald Trump's name on the tweet, I thought it was would be Obama's rationale for getting out of Iraq. So here's what's going to happen. This is going to lead to ISIS reemergence.
Senator Graham has made several contradictory statements regarding the PKK terrorist organisation's Syrian offshoot, PYD-YPG. During his latest visit to Turkey in January, Graham stated publicly more than anyone else about the direct link between the PKK and its Syrian branches, PYD-YPG.
PYD is the political, is that the right acronym? The political arm of the YPG is interlinked, interconnected with the PKK. The evidence is obvious for anybody who wants to look.
This time, he threatened Turkey over its planned counter-terror operation east of the Euphrates, saying that he will call for Turkey's suspension from NATO if it takes a step in northern Syria.
I will do everything I can to sanction Turkey if they step one foot in northeastern Syria. That will sever my relationship with Turkey. I think most of the Congress feels that way. I will do a resolution urging the president to reconsider this decision.
Welcome back. Now, as you saw in the news report that Lindsey Graham acknowledged himself the link between PYD, YPG and the PKK terrorist organization. Savannah, let me come to you. Like I said, Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator, acknowledged himself the link between PYD, YPG and the PKK terrorist organization, which is not only recognized as a terrorist organization by Turkey, but also by the United States and the European Union. But when we look at the tweets of Lindsey Graham yesterday, for example, he referred to the PYD, YPG as allies. So definitely some contradiction going on here. And how does a terrorist turn into an ally within the span of a few months?
Sure. So, the Kurdish question is something that has plagued the U.S.-Turkey relationship for a long time. This is not a new development, certainly. And we have seen, like you mentioned, the PKK terrorist organization labeled by many different groups, including the U.S., as well as Senator Lindsey Graham. I think what it boils down to is that there is a lack of consistency in terms of delineating who is an ally and who isn't in terms of this group, whether it's the PKK or the Kurdish offshoot groups. We have seen now, though, politically, the rhetoric surrounding this from both sides of the aisle is that the Kurds are our allies. The Kurds must be protected. We mentioned it before on the show that it's not surprising to see people from the left calling President Trump to reverse this decision. But it is surprising, and it is important to note that Senator Lindsey Graham, who is a hawk but also a very, very strong ally for President Trump, to come out and publicly say this. Like you mentioned, it is contradictory, but to publicly say this and to demand protection of the Kurds, he wants to suggest introducing resolutions to ensure that they reverse this. This is important to look at. Something else to note, too, in the development of this issue is that, of course, yes, the Kurdish question is complicated in the domestic side of things for U.S. politics, but also what's important to note is that this is not a surprise from President Donald Trump, who has said constantly, time and time again, with campaign rhetoric, that he is going to bring our troops home. He constantly uses the phrases, useless wars, proxy wars. And so this is just another example of President Trump, I think, really modeling for this 2020 election campaign that he is really, really pushing for in terms of making sure that people see him as a strong leader. And I think it backfired, seeing this strong support against his policy move from Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. It's going to be telling to see what happens in the next few days, whether he reverses this or comes out strong once again to kind of show his strength, whether it be through economic sanctions or something else in retaliation. So we'll see.
All right. Now, Professor Tomass, let me come to you. Let me widen the topic a little bit. We are talking about Turkey and the United States right now, but I believe in Syria there are many stakeholders, including Russia and Iran. How do you think Russia and Iran are going to react to this latest development?
Before I answer your question, just let me comment on Savannah's response to you. I agree with what she said. However, if we focus on Donald Trump's tweet, it is not clear that when he said what is off limit that he will obliterate the economy of Turkey if they do anything off limit. It's not clear what that off limit is.
Absolutely.
The way I see it, that he is not referring to a Turkish incursion into the north part of Syria, which, with an understanding, it's a limited incursion, only in the area that was agreed to during the Adana Agreement in 1998. He is looking at it that way, but the off-limit, the way I read his tweets, is that any release of the ISIS prisoners, the release of the ISIS prisoners that he is concerned about, he wants these prisoners to be handled by the people of the Middle East, do whatever they feel is right with them, and he doesn't want them to be set loose. So I think that's what he is referring to. Because otherwise you will not be able to explain the reversal of the tone of his tweet in his three subsequent tweets. So I think Donald Trump is serious about moving out, about getting out of the Middle East, getting out of Syria in particular at this time. The question is about his Republican backers. I think the Republican backers, as I said, as long as they are affiliated with a neocon ideology, they will fight against him. The question,
Professor,
is whether,
if I may ask here, previously it was said that it was the former National Security Advisor John Bolton who was stopping the U.S. president from pulling U.S. troops out from Syria. But now it seems like there are many other people who agree with John Bolton, isn't it?
Yes, of course. I mean, again, let me emphasize, this has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Regardless of even if the president is a Democratic president, you will still see the neocon ideology. It has a place in Washington D.C. in the U.S. foreign policy. So we cannot ignore that. Who presents that neocon ideology is irrelevant. It could be Lindsey Graham, it could be McConnell, it could be somebody else. So as long as there is, as long as the ideology that all of the nations surrounding Israel should be broken down into pieces is there as a strategic aim, there will be somebody to represent that. Now, coming back to your first question regarding what Russia and Iran will do, I think both Russia and Iran want the U.S. out, right? If you recall, about a year ago, I told you that Russia actually wants to use Turkey to get the U.S. out. But the U.S. realized that it does not want to enter into an armed conflict. So, and two, who is going to pay the United States? Who is going to pay the cost of the United States staying in Syria? So the United States, under Donald Trump, it's about a cost-benefit analysis, and cost-benefit analysis has to do with money. So for him, it makes no sense. That's why he wants to get out. He is aware that this is not going to make the neocons happy, but this is going to be, as Savannah said, we are going to see in the future few days or maybe few weeks how that conflict is going to be resolved. Whether he will prevail, whether he will take this case to the American people, or whether he will cave in. I'm inclined to think this time he will be prevailing. And he will carry on the policy of withdrawing from Syria. So coming back again to Russia and Iran, I think both of them would like to see the U.S. out, and for that reason they are quiet. They want to see the U.S. out, and then they will see how to handle the situation. Russia will handle the situation in a way that would be more, let's say, more amicable to the Syrian regime. Russia wants the Syrian regime to take control over the entire Syrian territory, as acknowledged by the Sykes-Picot Agreement. So the question is, if the U.S. goes out, what would the Syrian regime do? I think the Syrian regime would have to come up with some sort of understanding with Turkey that this incursion and the resettlement of refugees in northern Syria, which, as I said before, they would implicitly accept but not publicly accept. As long as they would be having some sort of control over that region in terms of opening their own schools, that is not over, sorry, in terms of controlling the curriculum as to what these people are going to learn in school. Are they going to be educated as that region is part of Turkey or part of Syria? So I think that is an open question, and that's going to be resolved later on.
Definitely, that's very important. And I think it can be said, while Turkey, Russia, and Iran, they have their differences when it comes to Syria, there is consensus when it comes to the United States. They all want the U.S. out from Syria. Now, Ms. Erbil, let me come to you. A very important question. I think it's on a lot of people's mind at the moment, especially in the western part of the world. Why does Turkey feel it is Turkey's fundamental right to do a counterterrorism operation in the 32-kilometer area?
Yeah, as I actually mentioned at the beginning, Turkey's national security actually wasn't threatened that much in the history. So in his Turkey's northeastern Syria, the whole along the border, like 932 kilometers. So there's a potentially, as the professor mentioned in this week's piece, actually, the White House official revealed and maybe they confessed the fact that United States will be better to support another smaller version of Israel in Syria by supporting Kurdish population across Iraq, Turkey, and Syria. So given this fact and accepting this fact, there are some lobbies in the White House, there are some lobbies in Washington, and strong lobbies in Washington, wants to see that country or states or some powerful actor in northern Syria is real. So, so Turkey actually considered this fact in a broader picture. Of course, at the first hand, the direct national security threat by PKK as well as Daesh was on the ground in the last 6 years. And still, there is a threat of Daesh as well, besides PKK. So, and return of Syrian refugees again. So this is why this operation might be called, and more likely to be called as a peace operation. So Turkey wants actually this 2 million Syrians at the first stage to go back to their homes safely, as Turkey did in the last two operations in 2016 and 2018. So this operation will be one of the actually biggest chance for Turkey and for whole the region and also for the whole Europe to send the Syrian refugees and guests and under the Turkey's protection as a guest to send them back their home safely. So this is the second biggest actually aim for Turkey to help this operation. And the third one, actually aligning with these two goals, Turkey wants and pursues strongly Syria's territorial integrity. So Turkey wasn't actually laid back. I mean, Turkey wasn't taking this community back in any level, any sense of this whole 6 years from the beginning of the civil war erupted. So Turkey wants Syrian territorial integrity as well as political process, which was actually committed by Russia and Iran, let's remember, 2 to 3 weeks ago in Ankara summit. So the political process is ongoing now along with the Astana process. So the Constitutional Committee were formed. So Turkey wants this operation to create a sustainable peace in Syria, sustainable political solution for Syria, and territorial integrity of Syria, as well as, for sure, as all sovereign states, as well as to sustain its own national security.
All right. All right. Now, Savannah, let me come to you. After yesterday's aggressive tweet by the U.S. President Donald Trump, today we saw a different one in which he basically announced that President Erdogan will be visiting the United States on the 13th of November. Could you please tell us what are the American expectations from this meeting between President Trump and President Erdogan?
Sure. So this is obviously a critical meeting, a critical juncture. But I think it also shows that although there are major discrepancies often between U.S. and Turkey, there is constantly, like I mentioned before, this relationship that has prevailed. Specifically with President Trump and President Erdogan, there is a strong working relationship. I think that between the American people and people in Washington, D.C., we are expecting to continue to have discussions regarding the developments in Syria. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, in terms of the development. So we could be having a very different conversation in terms of expectations for the meeting coming in a month between President Trump and President Erdogan. But I do think that obviously developments in Syria are going to be something to discuss. Of course, we can't ignore the elephant in the room with the developments of the S-400 and the F-35 situation between Turkey and the U.S. They are, at the end of the day, though, NATO allies. And I think that what is critical to realize is from the top down, from President Trump and many other members on the Hill and throughout the U.S. government, we recognize from the U.S. perspective that there is a strong threat to Turkey's national security. So at least to have, at the very least, this understanding and the support for Turkey in that sense, I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that this meeting will continue to provide inroads for the relationship. I think it's important to recognize that we are NATO allies. This is a critical relationship for the region, and hopefully we'll be able to see some headway in the next few days before we look for that major meeting in November.
I totally agree with you, Savannah. Turkey and the United States are great NATO allies, and every differences between them should be solved through a constructive dialogue. Professor Mark Tomass, let me come to you. I know it's one of the hardest things to predict what goes on in Syria, what will happen in Syria, but given the latest developments, please tell me, where do you think this war is headed towards?
I think this time Turkey will undertake the operation to enter the northeast region, and I think the resettlement process is most likely will proceed sometime in the near future. I think what we have to be careful about is what we have to observe is how the Turkish and pro-Turkish some army that it's called now the Syrian National Army, which Turkey has helped to construct, to develop, to establish, how they are going to deal with the armed groups in Syria, whether they are going to whether it's going to be an all-out war, starting with aerial bombardment and then with tanks and artillery bombarding, or is it going to be simply with infantry going into the northeast region? Again, what will happen will also depend as to what the armed groups, YPG, YPD, how will they face the Turkish incursion? Whether they will be fighting them or they will be withdrawing. Most likely, I would predict that they will be withdrawing the same way they withdrew from Afrin last year. So I think I am optimistic that we will not see a major human catastrophe taking place. The other thing that we have to be aware about, the northern Mesopotamian region is sparsely populated. It's a breadbasket of Syria, the breadbasket of actually more than Syria. So most of it is agricultural land, and agricultural land that depends on rain. So there are very few populated areas. The biggest center of population is Qamishli, that is in the far northeast, and then you have smaller towns across the border. So because of that, I think the area is more or less open, and it is flat. So it is very hard for the insurgency to remain there for a long time. So I am predicting that they will be withdrawing to the south, and eventually they will be surrendering to the Syrian government forces, and they would be disarmed.
All right, we'll definitely see what happens, Ms. Erbay. Same question for you. The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is visiting the United States on the 13th of November. What are the Turkish expectations from this meeting?
In my opinion, until November 13, Turkey will take the operation I mean, will implement whatever Turkey has on the military side and also political level. So Turkey already decided and showed its, determination to implement this plan and operation on the ground. So I don't foresee that Turkey will wait and hold off this operation until November 13. So after all, President Erdogan will go to Washington as a president of Turkey, who is determined to apply its plan for its nation's security and get an acceptance from Washington, get an acceptance from his counterpart, from President Trump. So that will create a very big confidence for President Erdogan, I think. And after all, Turkey will seek for further implementations of U.S. government, whether they will commit with arming PKK fractions, PKK and its offshoots, YPG and SAF forces on the ground. So as far as we know, they're pulling out to the south of north and eastern part of Syria right now, around north of Raqqa. So Turkey will establish the security zone peace corridor in 32-kilometer wide and 120-kilometer length. So Turkey will seek for the reactions from Washington after all. But I don't think that Turkey will wait for the operation until November 13 before the meeting. After the meeting with between President Trump and Erdogan.
All right. Ms. Nur Özkan Erbay in Ankara, thank you very much for being with us. And Professor Mark Tomass and Savannah Lane in the United States, thank you very much for participating in today's program.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to the end of another episode of The Brief. Like I always say, the United States and Turkey are great allies and also NATO allies. We must not forget that their partnership goes back to the beginnings of the 20th century. All the differences between the two countries should be solved through a constructive dialogue, and aggressive and strong statements are not the way forward. I'm Jafar Hasnan. See you on Thursday.